What's up, guys? This is Trevor the Great here again from Way of the Swan with another Way of the Swan battle report coming at you. I have to apologize for my tardiness for getting these battle reports out to you guys. I did have another little snafu with my camera and I lost the last battle report that I was trying to upload, but I think I've isolated the problem, so hopefully that won't happen in the future and I'll be able to get battle reports out to you more often and without screwing up and losing them. But anyway, this battle report is going to be Protectorate of Menoth versus Cygnar. I'm playing a Haley list that has actually been pretty old for a while. Ever since the Stormwall came out, people tried to run 2 Stormwalls with Haley2, and I've tried to do that as well. It's not really in fashion right now because a lot of the other Haley lists with Thorn and Bonded Heavies or just tons of infantry are more popular. However, I've been practicing a little bit with this list to try to use it to beat Bradigus Thoril, who's an enormous part of the meta right now. He's all over the place, and his theme force is terrifying. And I think 2 Stormwalls can beat it, but I'm not sure. But I'll keep playing around with it for a little while. But anyway, the list for today are my Haley2 list is Major Victoria Haley. She has 2 Stormwalls in her battle group, as I said. One of them, of course, is Bonded. A Squire, a Journeyman Warcaster, the Black 13th Gunmage Strike Team, and a unit of Arcane Tempest Gunmage Pistoliers with their unit attachment, the Gunmage Officer. This is a pretty standard list. I think Billy Robin built it and played it with a ton with it when the Stormwalls were first released and were very popular like 2-ish years ago. At my first TempleCon I went to, this list was all over the place and it did very well in the Masters there. And people, as I said, it's fallen out of fashion, but I think people won't be really expecting it in the tournament scene. So hopefully it will catch a couple people off guard. Running a list with 2 Stormwalls in it is a big enough issue, and Haley2 piloting it makes it very, very difficult to kill as well. My opponent's list is Intercessor Kreoss. That's the 3rd incarnation of Kreoss, the Exemplar Warcaster. He's the guy on the horse. So his list is a Reckoner and a Templar in Kreoss's battle group, both very solid jacks to take advantage of Warpath to move them around and get extra threat range. A Hierophant to reduce the cost of Kreoss's spells. Initiate Tristan Durant with Redeemer. Although the Redeemer's not going to get Warpath because it's not in Kreoss's battle group, the Redeemer on Tristan is cool because it's focus efficient. Kreoss doesn't have to spend any of his focus to buff it. It's high armor, it's armor 19 with Fortify, and it can trigger Warpath from a really long way away, just shooting people and killing them with blast damage. There's also a unit of Temple Flame Guard with their unit attachment, who's going to give them Terror and Iron Zeal, which is all very good for making them just an important jam unit. And with Holy Ward on those guys, they're incredibly difficult to deal with. They're defense 15 base if you charge them, they're defense 17, and they're just tough to kill. There's, of course, a unit of Avengers, which you probably have to take in Kreoss because of his awesome Divine Inspiration ability, which gives them an additional die on their melee attack and damage rolls, and they drop the lowest, which is an incredibly useful ability, and makes them hit like absolute trucks with those blessed lances. If you damage them, they come at power 16, he can ignite them, and then they get the extra dice, and it's all crazy. There's also some mercenaries, Lady Iana and Master Holt, to give out magic weapons, as well as Iris2, the Angel of Retribution. Iris is a little redundant in this list because Kreoss's feat will remove upkeeps in the turn he needs it, and there's a lot of Blessed, but having a piece that can either flank out really hard or threaten Warcasters by knocking their focus off is very, very strong. Anyway, Iris is a good piece in just about any list, regardless of what else is in the list. The scenario today is Incoming. This is an SR 2014 scenario. There are 2 vertically oriented rectangular zones, one oriented closer to each player's table edge. That zone is friendly to them, and they can score on it by dominating it for 1 point with their Warcaster. There's also an objective, which is an ammunition cache, which boosts light artillery, which can be destroyed by your opponent for 1 CP, or your opponent can get all the way across the board into your zone to score 1 CP for controlling and 2 for dominating. So let's see how this game shakes up, and let's get into it. So I won the roll to go first and ended up taking the first turn. I am very inexperienced with this list. This is actually my first game with it, so I'm not sure whether or not it really wants to take first or second, but I took first just because Haley tends to do very well taking the first turn. She can put a lot of pressure on my opponent, and having two big Stormwalls with tons of guns tends to do a lot of damage at range if I can get that first turn to advance as far as I can, and then start shooting on my second turn. So I've deployed my two Stormwalls in the middle. The one closer to the camera with the column on its base is the bonded one. The other one obviously is the unbonded one. I put my gun mages across from my opponent's zone. They're not going to be particularly useful in this game outside of sort of hunting support, because my opponent doesn't have a lot of troops they can shoot at and do a lot of damage with. So they're going to end up getting into my opponent's zone and just jamming up a little bit, as well as trying to take out as many of those support models as I can. My opponent's deployed his Temple Flame Guard across from my zone to jam him up, as well as his battle group in the center and his Vengers across from his zone in order to punish anything that comes into that zone and do lots of damage. Haley's going first. She temporarily accelerates the unbonded Stormwall and allocates one to each, as well as casting Deceleration to protect from that Redeemer. The bonded Stormwall runs up as far as he can. The unbonded Stormwall runs up as far as he can. And Junior has put Arcane Shield onto the Gun Mages. That, along with Deceleration, puts them up to Armor 16, which makes them very difficult to kill with blast damage. Without the Choir buff, the Redeemer needs 11s to kill them, and that's pretty significant, especially considering he doesn't want to sing Battle on his Jacks, because then I can shoot his Warjacks, and he wants to sing Passage instead. So there's the Choir going, singing Passage, and the Redeemer taking some shots into the center of that Gun Mage cloud there. Deviations aren't great. He hits one dude, boosts damage on him, trying to roll that 11, and ends up not killing him. Buying another shot. Again, deviations are not particularly good, and he misses on that shot, hitting no models. The Avengers are running up to take positions. They are fast enough with speed 8 that they can threaten just about the entire zone from where they are, so they don't need to be particularly close. And if they get too close, the Stormwalls can shoot most of that unit off the board. Here's Ayan and Holt moving up. She's giving the unit stealth, and Holt's taking a couple shots at the Gun Mages, but he's out of range and ends up missing. This, my opponent said, was a bit of a mistake, considering he forgot the Gun Mages ignored stealth, and so the Gun Mages will be able to shoot him, the Ayan and Holt, this turn, and hopefully take out that important unit. Here are the Temple Flame Guard running up. No Iron Zeal this turn. They're just clouding up to get in the way, and they'll probably Iron Zeal next turn, so that when they get into the zone, they can be armor 21 and very difficult to kill. The battle group running up, and Kreoss casting Holy Ward onto the Temple Flame Guard and Warpath onto himself, as well as repositioning. And Iris runs behind the house, and that is the end of my opponent's turn. Back over to my turn. I go into the tank a little bit. Considering where to put my gunshots, it's very important. Where the placement of these Stormwalls is very important, considering your list has such a low model count. So this list tends to take a lot of thinking in order to play well, although it doesn't take a very long time to activate, because again, it's only about 12 models. So here's Haley going, casting Deceleration. I think she kicked the Squire in order to get an additional focus, and allocated a bunch to each of the Warjacks, 2 to the unbonded Stormwall, and I don't think the bonded Stormwall got anything. There's nothing really on that side to shoot at, and he doesn't want to get too close to the Vengers because he'll be charged by that Reckoner, and that seems bad. And she cast Deadeye on both Gun Mage units. That's what happened. So here is the Black 15th going. WotS shooting down a Temple Flame Guard. Lynch tried to shoot a Temple Flame Guard but was out of range. And Ryan puts a Mage Storm down that deviates beautifully into the center of that little channel there, so those Flame Guard won't be able to get as many models into the zone. Here's the unbonded Stormwall going, boosting some attack rolls onto the Temple Flame Guard, killing one of them, rolling an 11 to hit on the hill, and then putting a Lightning Pod in the zone to make it more difficult to contest. And then last but not least, putting down Covering Fire in order to slow the progress of those Temple Flame Guard. Hopefully I can channel them all into one area so I can Mage Storm most of the unit and take those guys out as quickly as possible, because they're going to be annoying going into the rest of the game. Deadeye is on the Gun Mages, so they're moving up and they're going to try to take out Ayan and Holt. We're shooting from the back guys first in order to draw out a quick draw that might be out of range. Holt's not taking the quick draw and ends up taking a couple points of damage We're taking another shot into Ayana and killing her with one shot. And now we're shooting at the choir. We're going to try to take out as many choir members as possible. The more choir members I take out means he can passage less jacks, so my Stormwalls will be able to leverage some firepower with their big guns and do a bunch of damage there. Unfortunately, we left Holt alive, but we did kill 2 choir members, I think, which is very, very good. That will mean that one of those jacks isn't going to get buffed next turn. The Stormwall's going and putting some covering fire down to sort of annoy those Vengers, but doesn't really have anything to shoot at, so he's just chilling. Over on my opponent's turn, Holt's aiming and taking some shots. The deceleration is up, so the gun mages are defense 17, so Holt's going to need 7s when he aims, but he does hit 2 of them and kill them. And even that arcane shield isn't going to save them. They're only armor 16, so a shot from a hand cannon needs a 5 to kill them, which is pretty likely. The Redeemer's moving up and trying to deviate some blast damage into the gun mages again. Unfortunately, not doing too much work right now. He still needs 11s to kill the gun mages with boosted blast damage and isn't able to get there. I think the first AoE misses its target, the second one hits and doesn't roll the 11 to kill. So the Redeemer not redeeming too far right now. Tristan's moving up behind that house to make sure that the Redeemer's still in his control area. Iris is moving up around the building. Now this is important because Lynch over there has true sight, so he's going to be able to see Iris even when she moves around the building and hopefully take her out. If I can get Iris down, that means my Arcane Shield is safe until Kreoss feats, which is very important, and also Haley's not going to have to worry about moving out from behind those Stormwalls because she can camp enough focus with deceleration and Arcane Shield that she can really tank up a lot of damage if she needs to. Choir singing Passage again on the big jacks. The Redeemer's too far out to get a choir buff. The Zealots, or sorry, not the Zealots, the Flame Guard did receive the Shield Wall order and use their mini feat this turn, so they are going to be armor 21 against shots originating from their front, so they're going to be very difficult to kill, even for those brutal damage Mage Storm attacks, and even the Stormwall guns need 6s to kill them, or sorry, 7s to kill them, which is very difficult. Probably boosting damage on infantry, which is not really where a Stormwall wants to be. My opponent's moving his battle group backwards. Because the Stormwall's threat so far, they can threat 14 on the bonded one, 12 on the unbonded one, unless I can get Haley can leverage a TK on my opponent's model. The battle group doesn't really need to be particularly close, but what I want to do is catch them in my feet if I do send a Stormwall in. But if I miss any in my feet, then my opponent's going to be able to charge the Stormwall and deal a bunch of damage on my feet turn, which is not what I want. So keeping those battle group models back is going to also keep the Stormwalls back, because I don't want to move Haley up too far in order to catch everybody in my feet. Usually on her feet turn with his list, Haley's spending a lot of focus, boosting up those Stormwalls so she's not camping a lot. Here's the bonded Stormwall. He got a bunch of focus and he's going in on those Vengers. They are another threat to the Stormwalls that I need to deal with, so getting a turn of shooting out on them is very important. I had, I think, 4 focus on the bonded Stormwall, 2 focus on the unbonded Stormwall. The unbonded Stormwall is going to end up taking a shot into the Vengers, try to take another one out. And Deadeye went down on the Black 13th. WotS advanced forward and ended up leaving Iris on 1 box, I think, with a brutal damage shot. And then Lynch was not able to get in range with his true sight. So unfortunately, Iris is still alive. She's going to be threatening Haley a little bit, and my Arcane Shields more importantly, although that's still on the gun mages. So I'm going to need to take her out next turn. If she kills Lynch, or somebody kills Lynch, that's going to be very difficult. There is the unbonded Stormwall going. He took another shot into Avenger and ended up killing him. Taking a shot into the Redeemer just to deal a little bit of damage, but ended up missing that shot, needing a 6. And then his covering fire is going down in front of the Temple Flame Guard just to stop them up a little bit. Here are the gun mages advancing forward. We are taking a couple snipe shots into the choir, trying to take out the choir. I think we leave 1 alive. And then a snipe shot into Holt misses, and another one into Holt is out of range. We do take 1 Thunderbolt into a Venger to push him away, and that is their activation. The Stormwalls have already triggered Battle Driven by killing 3 of the Vengers, so they're going to get +2 Strength and Armor and Pathfinder this coming turn, so they're going to be able to hit very hard, but fortunately they're not in charge range of the Stormwall, so I'm not too worried. Here is my opponent's turn. The Flame Guard are moving up. They have combined melee attacks, so they can get a bunch of attacks in onto my troops. I only have 2 models in that zone because I'm worried about the threat range of that Templar being able to warpath forward, killing a gun mage or a lightning pod, and then charging the Stormwall and dealing a ton of damage. Between Acquire buff and Kreoss3's Ignite spell, he can do a ton of damage to that to a Stormwall and potentially kill it on the follow-up with Flame Guard or something else. The Flame Guard killed WotS with a CMA and shot in and attacked the Storm Pod, killing it, clearing the zone. So Iris moved up and took a shot at Lynch, killed him as well, needing an 8 to hit and an 8 to kill, so pretty lucky for my opponent. And then she's going to end up controlling that zone because I don't have any models in it anymore. The Redeemer taking some futile shots against the Gun Mages once again, either deviating off of or not killing them with blast damage, and end up buying an attack into the Lightning Pod in order to kill it. Here are the Vengers going. They're getting some charges into those few remaining Gun Mages to try to take them out. The first Venger charged in and impact attacked his charge target, so that means once you kill your charge target with an impact attack, your charge actually fails and you just keep moving. Fortunately, he had already moved most of his charge range, so he didn't really get too far out of command. And there's this last one, skirting that covering fire with a wide charge there and getting in on that Gun Mage and killing him with a charge attack. Between that +2 to hit on the charge attack and Divine Inspiration, those Vengers can hit pretty high defense targets with their lances. The last choir member is moving forward and giving a battle hymn to the Reckoner. That means he's not going to be protected in any way, so I can shoot him next turn. And he boosts an attack roll into the Gun Mage Officer, the last remaining member of the Gun Mages, and kills him off. So that removes the Gun Mages and my Arcane Shield. Fortunately, they did as much as to be expected. I'm a little sad that they left Holt alive, and there's still 1 choir member left. But with the amount of high armor models on my opponent's side of the board, I think the Gun Mages did particularly well, especially surviving all of the Redeemer Blast damage. That was pretty lucky on my part. We are back to my turn. My opponent scores 1 point for controlling my zone with Iris. And I'm going to need to dig my way back out of this using the 2 Stormwalls. What I really need to do is kill one of those heavies. This list really needs to attrition down the models that can kill the Stormwalls before the Stormwalls need to get into melee and do a ton of damage. So if I can shoot down the Reckoner or at least cripple it, then my opponent won't be able to rely on that in the late game in order to deal damage. So hopefully my Stormwalls will be able to tank the game out and end up winning either on scenario or by killing Kreoss. They can do either one of those just fine. So here's Ryan going. She shoots a Mage Storm, needs a 7 to hit and misses. It only hits 1 dude and it doesn't kill him, needing a 6. So that was pretty unlucky. The Unbonded Stormwall's moving up to try to Lightning Pod behind Iris. So we place a Lightning Pod down, boost damage on her, and she goes down. We take... we roll a couple other Lightning Pod damage rolls on some of the Flame Guard, don't kill any of them, and take our gunshots into the objective. Hopefully if I can kill that objective, I can sort of even out the scenario score, and that will allow me to play a scenario game in the late game. My opponent's already up 1 point, but Kreoss has to put himself in pretty significant danger in order to dominate that zone, either being shot by 2 Stormwalls or charged by 1 Stormwall. So hopefully I can leverage that to my advantage. The Junior activated earlier, and he moved up behind a wall, tried to shoot a Flame Guard, and I think he missed, but he Arcane Shielded the Bonded Stormwall. Kreoss is not in that zone yet, so I'm not even going to bother contesting it. I know he can score a point on his next turn, but I'm just going to have to give that up and hopefully put that Stormwall in the future. He takes shots into the Reckoner, and I've made a mistake here. I actually put the Stormwall within 13 inches of that Reckoner, which means if my opponent can trigger a Warpath, he can charge it with the Reckoner. The Stormwall's guns are range 14, and I was 13 inches away, so I only have an inch of leeway in there in order to get the the gun's in range. So unfortunately, if I'm even off by a little bit, that means that my Stormwall can take tons of damage, and that's not really something I want. Kreoss moving forward here. He feats at this point, I think. Puts Ignite onto the... Oh no, he does not feat this time. He just casts Ignite straight with his focus. I'm sorry. So he casts Ignite onto the Temple Flame Guard in order to put them up to power 12 weapons, and so they can do a little bit of damage to that Stormwall at least. And then just camps a couple focus on that hill. Next up is the Redeemer moving up. He's going to try to trigger Warpath, I think. He takes a shot at the Journeyman Warcaster actually, which surprised me a little bit. I wasn't putting lightning pods out so that I could try to stop my opponent from triggering Warpath. He deviates the first AoE and it hits the Journeyman Warcaster. He boosts damage and does a little bit, 1 or 2 points I think. His second shot actually rolls boxcars and straight hits the Journeyman Warcaster behind the wall, triggering Warpath. So that was incredibly lucky on my opponent's part. The odds of killing the Journeyman with blast damage was very low. He's very high armor. I didn't have deceleration up, although maybe I should have. But he did need boxcars behind the wall to hit, and that is what he needed to get, and he got it. So that's partially my fault for putting the Journeyman behind the wall, but I wasn't expecting him to actually be able to kill him with that Rat 1 Redeemer. The Exemplar Avenger charged into the Stormwall, did an impact attack, and did a couple points of damage, and then charged with his lance and rolled 3 6s before even rolling his Divine Inspiration dice. So already doing enormous amounts of damage to my Stormwall with just a couple, just one attack. This does about 25% of his boxes. And the Reckoner's getting in, shoots with his Assault Shot, and rolls double 6s for damage with the Assault Shot. Although his other attacks didn't do a considerable amount of damage. He did roll pretty well, pretty poorly on those attacks. But still, at power 19 at straight dice, that's a lot more damage to my Stormwall than I want it to take. The Stormwall can tank the Reckoner pretty easily, but tanking really good dice from the Reckoner and the Exemplar Avenger was not really what I was expecting. So that leaves the Stormwall with one crippled side and a significant amount of damage on the other side, although he is still almost fully operational, so he can deal a bunch of damage and hopefully take out that Reckoner, and then Haley will feat to protect him on this turn. The Flame Guard moving up, receiving a Shield Wall order again, just to be still difficult to remove and blocking up that zone. Unfortunately, my opponent's not going to be able to clear this zone, so he's not going to score on this zone, and Kreoss isn't in the other zone, so he's going to score 0 points this turn. But he does take a couple CMAs, I think kills a Lightning Pod, triggering another Warpath on the Templar, and then taking some combined melee attacks into the Stormwall, dealing a little bit of damage. The Templar moves up. He's just going to run forward. I think this was another mistake on my opponent's part. Just putting a lot of pressure on that Stormwall so that if Haley doesn't feat, he can take the Stormwall out and forcing a feat out this turn. I think I was going to feat regardless, so keeping the Templar back and out of threat range would have probably been the play, especially since without the Choir there, he's one Choir member left in the back. Those jacks aren't going to be passage, so that Templar is going to end up at least taking a round of shooting from a Stormwall, if not 2. I allocated 4 to my bonded Stormwall, I think 3 to my unbonded Stormwall, leaving 1 on Haley. Ryan goes up and Mage Storms an entire cluster of the Temple Flame Guard. What I wanted to do was kill the one Temple Flame Guard in front of the Stormwall that's closest to the camera. That would allow the Stormwall to get a charge onto the Templar, and I could potentially wreck both of my opponent's Warjacks this turn. I realized, though, that Kreoss would have been in charge range of one of the Stormwalls, would have been able to take it out, and I'm not sure that one Stormwall with a crippled side could kill Kreoss if he rolled well on his attacks against a Stormwall. So I ended up keeping my unbonded Stormwall in the zone regardless. The bonded Stormwall started taking attacks into the Reckoner, did tons of damage, boosted an attack onto the Avenger to try to hit him and take him out, but I missed with my crippled fist. Rolling more attacks and more attacks onto the Reckoner, scrapping him, and then boosting a Lightning Pod onto the Avenger, dealing 2 points of damage. So he's still alive. However, that Lightning Pod does not trigger Battle Driven, so that will mean that the Avenger is stuck at power strength 14 with his lance or power 9 with his sword. So he's not going to be able to do quite as much damage next turn, although he is pretty scary. It's the unbonded Stormwall going. He's just taking shots into the Templar, I believe. And then Haley moving forward, boosting a hand cannon shot into a Flame Guard and killing one more. There's only 4 left in that unit, and hopefully if I can take it out, Haley and that Stormwall can sit in that zone and continue to score scenario points, and hopefully Kreoss won't be able to clear either of those zones in time. That's the plan anyway. We're going to try for a scenario endgame, and 2 Stormwalls can still threaten Kreoss just about wherever he is, with enough ranged firepower. Here is the Unbounded Stormwall going. I considered the charge onto the Templar, decided not to, and just took all of my gunshots into him. The Mage Storm is a cloud effect, so interestingly enough it gives the Temple Flame Guard their concealment, which means that their defense 15 and my little guns aren't going to do too much damage to them, so I think I end up shooting the Metal Storms into the Templar and just trying to deal damage, boosting and not really doing much. I did about 7 or 8 with the big gunshots, I think, and that was it. Lightning Pod goes down, kills another. Oh no, that wasn't a Lightning Pod. I think that was one more Metal Storm shot that went into the officer and killed the officer of the unit. So that's leaving only 1 Temple Flame Guard alive in that zone to contest. I'm sorry, 2 Temple Flame Guard. There's 1 behind the Stormwall. So Haley did feat this turn. I'm choosing the order of activation as well as my opponent sacrificing his movement or action with models in the feat. I was able to catch the Hierophant, who's in front of Kreoss, the Redeemer, the Templar, and the Temple Flame Guard, as well as the Avenger. The Templar moved forward. He got a bunch of focus in case my opponent was able to trigger a Warpath. I didn't let him trigger a Warpath, though, so the Templar wasn't able to get into melee with anybody, so he just moved into that zone, towing that zone. The Hierophant moved back in order to contest my zone in a later turn. And the Avenger took a sword attack onto the Stormwall and did 1 or 2 more points of damage. Kreoss is running into his zone and scoring my opponent his 2nd point, as well as the 1 choir member standing where he is. The choir member is remaining where he is so that he can potentially battle the Templar on the next turn. So that scores my opponent his 2nd point. It means he still needs 3 to win. Without scoring my zone, he's not able to score 3 in a turn. So I'm not feeling too bad about this. I can contest his zone with just a Lightning Pod, so that will stop him from scoring this turn. The Bonded Stormwall getting 4 focus, putting a bunch of attacks into the Templar, as well as its Crippled Fist attack, and dealing a bunch of damage. The Templar with the shield is armor 21, so it's very difficult to kill, and I end up taking all of my focus to kill it. Now I make a huge mistake here, and I drop my Lightning Pod behind the Avenger in order to try to kill him with a good damage roll. I completely forgot that I was going to drop it into the zone, and I didn't want to, I needed to drop the other Lightning Pod across Flame Guard in order to clear my zone. Ryan went in there and tried to black paint the 2 Flame Guard, ended up failing to kill one of them. So the Stormwall needed to kill it with the Lightning Pod. That leaves my opponent's zone uncontested, so my opponent will be scoring on my turn, which was an enormous mistake on my part. I think this game would have ended up a lot differently if I'd remembered to put the Lightning Pod where I was supposed to. So that scores me my 2nd point, because my Unbonded Stormwall is able to kill the objective with his ranged attacks. It scores my opponent his 3rd point, unfortunately, on my turn. So if Kreoss is able to destroy the objective this turn, as well as dominate his zone, he can win the game on this turn. So Holt's moving up, shooting some shots. The Redeemer's moving up, fired 3 shots into the objective and did a couple points of damage, not doing particularly well. The Avenger's walking around the edge of the Stormwall's base because I put him out of melee range, taking a sword attack onto the objective and dealing a little bit more damage. Now, I think the objective at this point has about 8 boxes left. The Redeemer shots didn't roll particularly well, so he wasn't able to do as much damage as he'd hoped. But Kreoss does have Crevasse, which is a power 12 spell, and a boosted Crevasse and an unboosted Crevasse could theoretically take that objective out and win the game right then and there. So Kreoss is doing it, boosting 1 Crevasse into the objective. Sorry, I think he feeded to death sentence it just in case he rolled double ones. And his final attack does not kill the objective, leaves it on exactly one box. My opponent's dice, although they were very good in the previous turn, killing the Journeyman Warcaster as well as dealing a ton of damage to my Stormwall, ended up failing him in the end when he really needed them, and leaving that Stormwall on one, or leaving that objective on one box, so that Kreoss is just in front of a Stormwall without any focus on him, and we decided to call the game there. We talked about it afterwards. I think if I had placed my lightning pod in the correct position, it would have been a very different game. I think that something would have been able to take out that Stormwall instead of allowing it to just sit there and continue to kill my opponent's models. And I would have had to been forced to put my other Stormwall into my opponent's zone. Although at this point, my opponent's running out of models that can possibly contest my zone, so I think that Haley will be able to just dominate my zone to victory to 5 points in later turns. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. Hopefully I'll be able to put a lot more out. I'm not playing as much as I have been over the last couple of weeks just because of school, but I think once classes end and I'm on winter break, I'll be able to record a lot more games. So stay tuned for that. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, tweet, share with friends, email, write about it in a letter and send it via snail mail, dig, retweet, Reddit, social media. Alright, anyway, enjoy your day. I hope you enjoyed this video.